Well, Joy already introduced us. I'm the regional manager for Latin America, and Megan, she's the regional hub manager for the travel businesses and for Europe.
Yes, hi everyone. Lovely to meet you all. Yeah, I'm joining Joe on this panel. As Joe said, I'm European Hub Manager. I'm also Hub Manager for our travel businesses across the globe. I joined the Long Run just back in January after a good 20 years working in the Latin American travel industry, including 11 years working for the Latin American Travel Association. So while my focus has changed slightly, my knowledge and passion for this region remains, and I'm really looking forward to joining Joe on this panel.
And we're super excited with our panel that we have lined up with these amazing women from Latin America. So I'll just briefly say a few lines about who they are. We have Silvia Rico, who's the founder of Enigma Peru, one of our oldest running DMC members with over 2 decades of experience. We have Isabel Malaret, the head of Triple Impact from Glove Travel, our largest DMC in the region, operating in Argentina, in Chile, Antarctica, and just recently in Uruguay as well. And we have Ana Inés Figueroa, the founder of Adentrando, a DMC also based in Argentina, in the north of Argentina, with very extensive experience on the ground structuring guidelines of and delivering training for best practice in kind of the adventure and nature travel space. So welcome, you guys. I'm very excited that we have you here with us to share a little bit of what operating in Latin America is like. Before we get into kind of the specifics of that, I just wanted to bring up this subject that came up in our conversations previous to this in preparing this panel, where you made a very important point about what the specific role, if we think about a standalone DMC, anywhere in the world, we think about perhaps very specific business model and very specific operations, but Latin America has its own tourism dynamics, as opposed to, say, other regions such as Africa, where oftentimes the tourism sort of activities tend to be very lodge-centric. So guests will come and they'll stay for 5 or 6 days in a single lodge, and then the lodge will take care of all of the activities that are happening. And so it becomes kind of that hotspot. Whereas in Latin America, we of course, it's a very wide region, right? It's got so many biomes and different cultures, etc. But it tends to be marketed with sort of a postcard view of these archaeological sites and cultural experiences which happen outside the lodges. And so the logic is that while the lodge becomes sort of the home base where you like sleep and stay, the DMCs handle pretty much everything else in the experience. And so it shapes every element, and it puts them front and center as kind of architects of tourism in Latin America. And so as a consequence, the responsibility and the power of choice in terms of how you create itineraries and how you weave impact is very much in the hands of DMCs. So with that in mind, I wanted to start with Ana from Adentrando. You have played several roles in the tourism space. You've been a guide and an operator and a DMC. So you have such an insider look into the challenges and the nuances of trying to understand what impact can mean and how to design it for in Argentina. So can you tell the audience a little bit about your experience sort of navigating this context and coming to understand what impact can mean there?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Joanna, Megan, and everybody for having us all here. Hello from Argentina. So, well, that's a big question, Joanna. Thanks. I started from the bottom up. I started guiding tour leader, local operator, and now I am a DMC. So I started on the ground, a little bit translating between the local communities and the travelers, working for overseas companies and from DMCs, bigger DMCs from Buenos Aires. And so the first thing that I think that I learned and that I want to say here is enter a destination or a region that you're going to sell with respect and listen and learn. Don't come in with pre-designed models, with pre-designed ideas, because a lot of the companies that as DMCs that we work B2B, we work with, they are global. They work in many other places. And many times when they arrive in Argentina, they've already a lot of expertise in other parts of the world. And Latin America is different and each country is different. In my case, I talk about Argentina. It is different. So listen, learn, figure out how things work there versus we used to do this in Southeast Asia. Could you do that? Because it was an amazing experience. Yes, it is, but it doesn't translate to our geography, to our culture, to our legal permits, to our human resources availability. So the first thing that I would say is that. And I want to leave the ground for somebody else before jumping into it, because I know all of us have so much to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's quite interesting the way that you say that, and that you have to sort of come in and have that respect and have that understanding, because I think one of the things that we see a lot of the long run is that sustainability. There isn't one size fits all, and there is all these nuances, and even within even one country on its own, there are lots of different ways in which impact can happen in different places. I know, Issa, when we spoke, you were saying that really it is that sort of deep understanding of the different regions, really is, and actually identifying different impacts. And that's been your experience. Maybe you could tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So there's something we always talk about, and we love that it's supporting communities or understanding what's the different communities in different parts of the country, or the different countries club works at, how they are and what's authentic to them, and how we can get to understand each of their cultures. But as also we were discussing with Anna last time, not every part of the huge region has like communities that are native to that place, and in some other parts of the countries, for example Patagonia, that it's super vast but doesn't have a lot of people living there full year, the biggest impact we can have actually is in conservation, not in community impact, but looking at the pumas, or how we support the different species that used to live there and now they are coming back. So I think as a DMC, we really have to understand each of the different regions and what's the impact we can have in each of them, so that we can profoundly impact in each of those places without having like a one size fits all and this is the impact I want to have everywhere in this country, because that just wouldn't work.
No, absolutely. And having those relationships on the ground is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. So what I always love is that we always start like from GLAV operates in 3 different countries, right? But we always have a team that is an expert in each of the countries. So we have an office in each of the countries, and people are walking every single place that we sell, every single hotel, every single experience, every single accommodation is known by our team on the ground. So starting locally and with people who know the place, who love the place, who knows the community is key for us, because that's the way we can really understand the nuances and also the possibilities that each of those places brings. So it's not like, hey, somebody in Buenos Aires is going to make a decision of how we impact a region in Chile, but it's somebody who grew up in Chile, who's fond of Chile, and who has walked those streets that will tell us what's the impact we can make over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I may cut in with something that, because it's very interesting how, again, Latin America is such a wide array of countries and cultures, and so each particular destination in each particular country has so many nuances. Like there was something, Silvia, that you were saying about Peru in our last conversation, about how it's perceived very much as a bucket list destination. Of sorts, with of course the most iconic Machu Picchu and the surroundings, the Valley, as kind of like the main magnet that brings in tourists. And how is that for you, creating these experiences of perhaps thinking about impact in either reducing pressure or somehow trying to ease by influencing clients to promote alternative experiences? What has been your experience with that?
Well, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me, and thanks for putting the focus also on Latin America. Actually, super interesting what you're mentioning. Both Anna and Isa have touched on super interesting points on the role of the DMCs. Definitely, Peru is still considered a bucket list destination in the sense that first timers coming do want to visit Machu Picchu, yes or yes. So I think it's a different situation versus eventually other countries in which they may choose different destinations, but they're at a different sort of level of priority, let's say. But we can't fail Machu Picchu. It has to be in the itinerary if you've ever been there. if you've never been there, sorry. So yeah, it's sometimes a challenge because one of the aspects of RU it only has a certain type of, or a certain quantity of rooms, a certain capacity. So that is let's say a natural barrier to loads of people coming, but definitely there's always, I like to say, I mean, when we do, for example, we also started as a trekking operator. So I relate very much to what Anna was saying. And maybe we can talk about this later, but so we started working with local communities in natural protected areas. So we started by being in a little region and directly understanding the needs, the challenges of the local people, and actually finding a way to make this relationship growing together. Actually, yeah. So when it comes to when you get to understand this, and all of a sudden you become a DMC like ourselves, we started as a specialist and became a generalist DMC. Then what we try and do basically is, okay, we can support the need to go to Machu Picchu, but there's different aspects and different things that you can actually do and different ways of visiting. There's not just one single way of going all together in herds of people. And the type of clientele that we have, fortunately, are more and more valuing the immersive experiences, the access to non-obvious, non-Googleable, places, and we always try and approach them with total respect, as very much Anna was saying. I go back to the word sustainability, which is sometimes said in a very generic way, with all due respect, but sustainability for us, it's sustaining what there is. So again, back to what you, Anna, said, learning and listening, how the locals actually live, what is actually their culture, and we need to sustain that. It's not that there's a single model of sustainability that we want to impose, but something that we want to preserve, respect, and preserve. And of course, there's new technologies and new things happening in the world that we need to embrace and incorporate, but always taking that into account. So our job in this sense is always providing alternatives that are decongesting the usual circuits. And of course, maybe I'd say a 20% goes to so convince or trying to propose these different options to our clients, but also showing other places in Peru. We have a lot of resistance for that because there's always this bucket list sort of mindset, but little by little we're getting there. So in hopes of improving this as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I suppose in a way it's that thing, isn't it? Because DMCs really sit between, the end client and the communities, and really DMCs really have this sort of power of design and power of choice and and these spheres of influence to actually try and change the direction in which people travel. So, Machu Picchu is such a big bucket list place, but then, we do have this power as DMCs to sort of try and incrementally change that direction so that we can promote other areas, change the big flow of tourism to other places. And that is really sort of this thing of, impact by design, because I'm such a big believer that travel businesses have so much more power than we know in actually the decisions that we make. I mean, I don't know, Anna, I don't know if you've got if you wanted to jump in here in terms of sort of those sort of decisions you've made in terms of the way that you design itineraries for your clients in a way that sort of, really drives impact. If you could maybe give us some ideas and some examples of that.
Well, one of the things is continuing on the bucket list thing. With the size of Argentina, the biggest bucket list locations in Argentina are almost 5,000 kilometers apart. So it's trying to influence slow travel, understanding that some countries are not a destination per se, unless you have 40 days to travel, but you concentrating in one area, it's a better experience for the traveler. They'll get to see the bucket list, the main attraction that drove them to that area, but they will also get to know the way of life, get to know the things that are not Googleable, as I love that word, Sylvia. And so all these things, and one of the things that create impact, besides slowing down what we know of carbon emissions and better experience, respecting the culture, getting to know there also, but it also leaves more money from an economic impact, positive impact. There's more money in destination. And one of the things that I've learned, because one of the things that all of us talked in our discussions leading up to this, was that in Latin, most of the travelers that consume this kind of travel talk in English or another language. And our language is Spanish in Latin America and Portuguese. And so it's very difficult to find somebody that talks English or that talks German or French or something. So I'm also a guide trainer. So one of the things that I found in trying to comply with the expectations of requirements, because as a DMC, we specialize in active trips. So in active trips, you need the hiking, riding, or biking technical guide. You also need the guide that has the language of or the one person that has all these skills, the language of the travelers, that understands the local culture, that knows every single supplier, that can create these liaisons in between everybody, because it's not a lodge-based operations. People just sleep at the hotel, and it's a bed and breakfast. Even if it's a big lodge, it's still a bed and breakfast service. And then they go out, and there's the drivers and everybody involved. So what I found is creating models, it's more complicated, but it's very rewarding and very rich for the clients. I said, I don't need one person with all these skills, because that was very few people. I need these skills on the trip. So I flipped it around. So I can have somebody that is very good at mountaineering, hiking, riding, but probably they're good at the technical, but they don't know how to guide and they don't have the language. But then you have the guide that is also a facilitator and has the language and can provide all the little things that bring everything together and create the experience. Then you have the expert at cooking. Then you have all the different experts. And so as a DMC, we're like puppeteers, in the back office, we're phoning one and the other one's arriving. In fact, I just had a message from somebody from someplace in the middle of the mountains. And but at the same time, all this translates in, you suddenly have 4 travelers, but there's about 10 people that are benefiting from those 6 days that they're there. So that is my idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, it's certainly it's that thing, isn't it? It's sort of slowing it down and actually enriching that experience, because I often find that the most impactful experiences are actually, actually much, much richer for the client. So it's actually that whole thing of actually creating that experience, but also slowing down that trip so that we can reduce impact as well.
And let me add, and just to wrap that up, it's logistics. Latin America, our countries are huge. We have very few roads. We have very few flights. So when you spread it out and only think about the bucket list, and I want to see this, and I want my photograph in front of something, besides the rushing through and having a touch and go experience and just collecting places versus living experiences, the logistics end up being insane and very expensive also, and with more risk of flight problem, road problem, and everything that we know can happen in travel. But so slowing down and listening to the DMC, it's also safer, better for the budget, for the traveler, that they need to be more guests than consumers, just collecting things. So it is a challenge that we have. Sometimes our sales process involves like education and conversations. It's very interesting.
Very much.
Actually, that's a very good point. There's something that you just reminded me of that you said that is kind of between the the responsibility or the challenge or the power to say no from time to time, which is not easy. And I wanted to, now that you mentioned also clients and client expectation, I wanted to bring up, Isa, you were saying about Uruguay and kind of growing this operation in Uruguay and being able to, on the one hand, build that operation, but on the other hand, kind of manage what people are expecting as clients when they go there in terms of what a luxury experience can be or so. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So I think that as Anna and Silvia were mentioning before, we are always curating experiences, right? We don't want to sell just a luxury hotel and that's it, but we really want people to get to know the culture, to really become part of the place, to build that mutual respect between the person who's visiting and also the person who's receiving all of these brilliant people from around the world. And sometimes the challenge we have is that some places that are absolutely fantastic to visit are not as developed as some other places can be. So there's an expectation of luxury that if we define luxury in the traditional sense of it, we sometimes cannot achieve. So there's a big part of our role there is to translate the different definitions and the different expectations of luxury. Like luxury sometimes means being in the remote area under the stars in Cabo Polonio, which is a place in Uruguay that has no lodges and no electricity, for instance. But also linking it to what Anna was saying before, luxury is having one guide that speaks in English. Sometimes people can complain, for example, hey, their English is not right, but when you tell them the story about how that person got to even learn English in the first place and the fact that it's brilliant for them to even have somebody who's welcoming them with not the perfect level of English maybe, but with the right amount of passion, with the expertise and with the eagerness to translate their culture, I think that's a way of defining luxury in a completely different way. So we do a lot of that translating, like this is the luxury you might know, but this is the luxury we can offer here. And this is how we can design luxury here. Mm-hmm. And luxury has all sorts of definitions, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess in a way, I mean, I suppose that the thing is, it is that thing of that redefining and also sort of working with the clients about their expectations. Because I'm imagining that, say with you, Sylvia, particularly we were talking earlier about sort of, people want to come to Peru, they want to go to Machu Picchu, they want to do, all the highlights in a week, and it's sort of like, in a way, it's kind of like how that's a huge challenge. And it's sort of, but the thing is when we have these sort of, these spheres of influence that I feel that we have as travel businesses, we have this way of sort of influencing people locally and engaging with local communities, local experiences, but that ripple of influence can go the other way and can go to tour operators and to the end client. And, how do you use that influence and how do you sort of influence that direction of the supply chain to really sort of grow impact?
Yeah, it's a superb question, and it's also actually one of the main ingredients for us to also design experiences,
Sure.
Because I'm a firm believer that one does what one is passionate about in the best way possible. So when
Sure.
there's passion there, and when you travel, you meet interesting people, and very frequently these are not going back to the Googleable people, the expert in this or there, or maybe I should say Claude or ChatGPT today. But
yeah,
they're not.
the
ChatGPT
brigade, yeah.
Right, Google is part of the past, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so sometimes it's more difficult to find that unsung hero who has a story to tell that really makes you declick and really kind of gets you out of your comfort zone, because some people, some of our clients will come just visiting in the routine of taking photos and just and actually it takes also our own efforts to just disconnect and reconnect with the place, be present. And I think that's one of our big roles. And so the ripples or the effect that we can have in it's a whole ecosystem and ecosphere of everybody working with us, from I don't know, of course, the guides that we were mentioning, that we share our ethos with, that they learn what our clients are expecting. Transportation, I mean, the chauffeurs, they're just exposed to all these people. Even I don't know, the laundry people that will clean our sleeping bags, they're really conscious about how to clean it better. The porters, we've done cleanups when not a lot of people were believing in us doing this, and yet the level of compromise that you get from the porters themselves when they actually realize how difficult it is to get that bottle, that guest visiting the Inca Trail just squeezed between two rocks so that no one notices it, how difficult this is to get out of there. Then they became the guardians of their own place. This extends into, of course, hotels that we also share with, and sometimes there's surprises because there's a lot of marketing and less of doing, unfortunately. And this is why we love to be part of the long run and to share experiences and practices. And of course, the clients then, our agents, we start to communicate different types of experiences. So you can do this experience, which is mostly done by most of other competitors, but we are making an effort in adding value, creating a difference in what you are proposing. And we have done a research, we have traveled, we have tested it, we have brought with us a commissioned photographer to have like super different photos. And then when you start to talk about this, it becomes meaningful. And it's also super important, related to what both Anna and Isa were mentioning, to really set and manage expectations of clients. Because again, luxury is a type of luxury, and logistics are definitely difficult. We've encountered ourselves with difficult moments, crisis management, strikes. And what at first was like, oh my God, we have to jump over barricades, take 3 motor taxis to get back to the city of Cusco, when our clients then saw that no one else was making it. What at first was a sort of, what is this? What are they taking me through? It became, thank you, oh my God. And we were always safe. We knew what we're doing. So back to the trust and to the reliability of the DMCs being there, and the huge scope of influence that this has. And I'm only talking about the stakeholders, those who work with us. But then there's also the good work that we do, because I'm sure both Anna and Isa, I mean, we started philanthropic projects that touch on different aspects of the 4Cs. So not even talking about that, which obviously has another impact, no, but lots of ripple effects there. I think all positive.
Isa and Anna, do you want to share something related to how you've understood your ripples of influence as well? Before, I know we have a little time, but I just wanted to give you guys also a space before we wrap it up.
I've been taking notes just while Silvia was talking, and one of the things that I was thinking is, in Argentina particularly, we have a very big domestic market. And so a lot of the smaller suppliers in remote regions, they're more used to a domestic market that always fight for price versus quality, and because they just travel there every weekend or whatever. So one of the biggest things, like initially it was like a struggle, because you bring in a supplier because they provide, the horses as pack animals for a certain hike or certain things. And so one thing is flowing with and providing training on the ground. And instead of like waiting to get their price, because that they're still third party, there's somebody that we're hiring, and so we would say like, can you give me your price list, and we want this. And probably we were asking as DMCs for something slightly different than they did originally. So we wouldn't get the price, or we wouldn't get the timing, or we didn't get the information we needed. So okay, let's work with them and provide a training, and so do a win-win situation. So improve them with their knowledge and their skills as to how to work with the international market, or link with a B2B market that it's slightly different, and how to do that. Because the first time we mentioned the B2B thing, it was, with other words, of course, it was like whoa. And so training and learning and giving back. So we go with the guides and we train, but then, we have that. But then at the same time, they're better operators eventually. And sometimes co-funding and helping, first aid training and different things. So then it's a win-win. They're better independent suppliers, so they grow, the destination improves, but also we have better suppliers because we've invested time in the low season and training and that. So for me, that's something that works. Not always, but it works.
Absolutely. Isa, any final thoughts?
I just think we are super privileged to be a DMC because we are in this like kind of bridge where we can really influence where travelers will go, what they'll visit. For example, north of Argentina, Iberá, it's not a very well-known region, but there are so many cool conservation projects happening there. So if we can tell the agencies we work with, like how exciting it would be to bring people over there because they can see all of these things in place. And at the same time, so we are really influencing guests, but we are also really influencing our partners. We work with them every single day. We're in constant conversation. We always, of course, choose partners who have our same approach to ethics in general. So we are always trying to improve together, and they have been growing alongside with us. And also these discussions we are having with agencies. So as the ladies were saying, like saying no or trying to explain why this is a luxury experience, and we have so much influence in those conversations in the way we design each itinerary. So we are exactly in the middle of the bridge where we can really have such an amazing impact on all of our partners. So for me, for us, it's a privilege and also such a big responsibility, and we take it really seriously. So it's really cool to have the long run to help us have some exciting new ideas and debates that will bring us a bit further every day. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Isa. There was something great that you said in one of our conversations preparing for this panel. There was something like, DMCs, we should look at ourselves as guardians of the regions that we're stewarding, that we're working in. And it's funny because when we were thinking about creating this panel, Anna and Celia and Isa, you as well, you were saying, well, the tricky thing about DMCs is that we don't, the long run started with accommodation sites, and it's very direct and very obvious when you have, I mean, it's not easy, but you have control over managed land, and so it's very tangible where your impact is. And just before in the first session, I was listening to Delphine talk about like the succession and that sort of the study that has been going on around it, and how these businesses that were accommodation sites have this issue that are tackling of constantly trying to this kind of balance business with sustainability decisions and stewarding this physical land and worrying about sustaining for the future. And then working on this panel with you guys, I realized it's the same thing. It's the same responsibility of maintaining kind of the stewardship over a region for the long term, no pun intended, in the long run, right? And so I'm so thankful that we have this space and that we can sort of get the voice of the DMCs out there as well, of just how much responsibility that they have over the destinations that they work with too. So thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
I think there's one question.
Yep.
There's one question. Sorry, I'm okay. Oh yes. How do you handle visitors with luxury expectations if you're not able to meet during their stay? Would you say a classic DMO, these are DMCs technically, not suitable for the common old-fashioned luxury visitors?
I think, as I was saying before, I always try to give them more depth into what we are designing so that maybe they can feel that different definition of luxury that we are telling them. For example, hey, you won't have electricity, the bath won't be a 5-star bathroom, but you'll be under the stars in the most remote place where stars can be seen in this amazing way. You'll be together with a astrophotographer who will explain everything that's happening in the sky right at that time. So I think there's a lot involved in the storytelling and trying to show this different side of luxury.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree with this. Sorry, Anna. Do you want to go ahead?
No, go ahead, Sylvia. Go ahead.
No, thanks. I was just thinking, yeah, the same. I mean, we can talk about what alternatives are there and how the local geography, people, places would invite for a different experience and journey altogether. It is true that sometimes some specific creature comforts of different degrees are, however, needed. And in this case, if we have the chance, then we have to provide them, and we're open to doing so. I have to say, though, that that doesn't really usually make a big difference, and it ends up to just having like a nice glossy room at a hotel, or certain types of vehicles, etc. Which honestly, I mean, like I see some private aviation options or vehicles, or we don't actually have them in Peru. So sometimes it will be a no-go. It's like literally going on an adventure for certain type of clients, and really accepting, just a different way of traveling. And then I think it opens their minds in a way. So it is also a process that will definitely add to someone's life experience in a way. But yeah, we're always trying to assist and please as much as possible, but without going beyond respect and the essentials of the people and places we visit.
Anna?
Well, no, one of the things that also as DMCs that we influence where people go, we guide them into where people go, because there is all these bucket list things end up taking masses of tourists, of people into one place, and end up driving out the local population out of these places. We know it. We've seen it worldwide. And it's still more impactful in small rural or small villages that are relatively close to these big natural or archaeological attractions that is what we have in Latin America. So it's also our responsibility as DMCs, to work on dates, on high season, low season, deal with these different things and convince people, if it's a long weekend locally, that there'll be a lot of influx of domestic tourists. Well, then let's go someplace else. It will improve the experience for everybody. It will expand for the local population, fewer visitors at a time, and also not a lot of income on a certain days that they have to say no to providing certain services, versus if they come in, 3 days later, like after Easter, they'll be able to attend them because then they're free and, they'll have a spread out income. So tying back to what we've all been saying here, DMCs, we don't own, we own design, we own ideas, we own intangibles, like immense intangible knowledge, connections, partnerships. Those are our assets. But then we need to know where to manage them. We don't own a property that we can say it has 15 rooms, it's full, it's not full, you can come, you cannot come. It's more of a very complicated, but a controlled environment. We don't, because the stage where we are moving our clients with our design doesn't belong to us. It's a national park, it's a private estancia, it's a city. So we're maneuvering through there. So I think that trust between ourselves and our partners, and at the same time, whoever is hiring our services of DMCs, is a question of trust and belief, and trust me, it's not the best time to do this. We should go there. And to the local partners, trust me, like this with the clients. And then also the clients, give me the information, talk about me, about your expectations, so we can prepare them in advance and prepare suppliers, and not take the wrong person into the wrong place, because if it's a wrong match, it won't work, even if everything is fantastic and not out of bad intention, but communication is key and huge for us as DMCs to be able to do a good work.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
want.
Hannah.
Sorry,
Oh,
John, I just want to loop in and reinforce this because it's part of our super responsibility, because we actually go immerse ourselves into finding these super special experiences. And if it's not the right match, as Anna is saying, not only is the client not happy, which of course is nothing that we really want, but also the impact on the local people or the places can be huge, and sometimes can mean a total closure to I'm not doing this again. So it's really
Yeah.
super important, and so we act as sort of prescribers of the experiences, but a bit of a psychologist, not offending anyone here, but really trying to match and understand the insights of what's coming and interpreting them on what would be most adequate, but really conscious that the impacts can be really strong if not well matched. Totally.
Absolutely. Well, Sylvia, thank you. And I'm sorry to cut you guys off because I feel as though we could actually talk forever on this topic. It's been so engaging. Thank you all for an amazing panel. I will thank you all, and thank you, Joe. I don't know if you had any final words before I move on to the next session.
no, just I know that there are some more questions. Our panelists are going to go into participants, but they can answer in the chat if that's possible, so we can get on with the program. But thank you
Super.
guys so much.
Thank you so much for having.
Thank you,
Thank
ladies.
you.